Hello everyone and welcome to Factorio, the Space Age. So we have finally news about the Factorio expansion. It's been a very long time, probably 8 or 9 months since we got news last December on it. And finally it's back and there is so much to digest here, so much good news. I may actually end up doing multiple videos going over different aspects of this. We are going to summarize it today and talk about the main discussion points. And first off, let's just admire this. This looks amazing. Not only does it graphically look amazing, there's just so much interesting stuff here, which is potentially even worth, like I said, just making an entire video for alone, just to analyze what's actually going on here. The expansion is introducing space travel to the game, and not only space travel, but different planets. So it extends the journey of the player after launching the rocket into space in the base game. So just to clarify, the devs have made this so it can basically be used as a mod. Now, of course, it has significantly more capabilities and stuff than a mod because it uses the actual engine. The devs can tweak it and stuff. But the game can be played with or without it. So you can play the game and you can even turn it on like once you launch a rocket and then play with it from that point forward, which is really cool. I like that a lot, actually. I'm actually a little distracted looking at this because there's just so much stuff I'm noticing the more I look at it. Yeah, you guys can just observe this. I'm observing it here. Like I said, we can make even a whole video on it, but there's just all kind of cool stuff. We may jump back to this near the end. Basically, if you've been around for a while, the whole idea and concept of space platform was initially planned before version 1.0 and was kind of fairly seriously discussed as a thing to do in 1.0, but they decided to kind of put that on the back burner and not do that because it would just be way too much to do. This is basically just what we summarized. Yeah, so that was 4 years ago, just looking at this here. But they do say here, this is just an interesting tidbit, that the name Woob or Wooby is an abbreviation of this. I'm not going to ruin this by trying to say it, which means something like everything will be done eventually, which I think it's a good name. It's appropriate. So they didn't abandon it. They just kind of, like I said, realized it was too ambitious and stuff and put it on the back burner until now. And also I think this is good because their abilities in terms of like game optimization and the game engine improvements and stuff have improved quite a bit, I think, even just from 1.0. So having that knowledge and stuff going forward is super nice. So what all is it going to include? Now, obviously, we don't have tons of details. There is something kind of in regards to that, some really good news that we will get later in the Friday Facts here. But just as a summary, basically, there will be the main structure of there will be a space platform that you initially build. So they're used for multiple things. So you have to launch multiple rockets into space to build a platform. And the rocket is cheaper in Space Age to make up, because you're going to need quite a few so it doesn't drag on. Now for, mega basers like myself and stuff, I don't really mind launching tons and tons of rockets, but for just an average person who's not insane playing, then it makes sense that they want to make it cheaper. But you are expected to build bigger in preparation of what's to come, which makes sense, and that's good. So the platform is actually used to generate space science, and we saw up in this image there is a silo, and this looks like potentially an attached lab of some sort, I would imagine. And same with this. So this platform is used to generate space science rather than just getting it from launching a rocket like you do in vanilla. So we have that. And then they decided to go with the approach of having a few small number of predefined planets, which represents your progression through the game. So first off, I just want to say that, as we go through this is huge. When the devs said a while ago in a previous Friday Facts that the expansion is going to be basically as much content as the current vanilla game, I was a little, I don't want to say skeptical, but I was just kind of blown away because the vanilla game has a lot of content when you actually think through it, especially as a new player playing through it. But I can see why now. This is super crazy. There are 4 other planets, guys. So like if you think about all the gameplay you've been able to get in on vanilla and stuff, there are now going to be four more planets with this. And each one has its unique set of challenges, its unique resources, themes, gameplay mechanics, and different military targets and enemies, which kind of brings us back to another previous Friday Facts where they showed this like really crazy looking like tentacle like floating enemy. We couldn't really decipher what it was. I'm still not sure if it's like a water-based enemy or not, but it's definitely on one of these other planets, which is going to be pretty crazy. And then every planet leads to production of specific science packs and its technologies. I really like that as well. There's actually something to do there and a need to go there aside from just being like, ooh, another planet. I'll just venture over here for no reason or whatever, right? Like, there's actually very real reasons to go to these planets. And then the other thing, which is really great, and I'm glad they did this, is the order in which you exploit the planets is an impactful strategy choice. So instead of just mindlessly researching all the planets, there is a choice to be made that's going to be impactful because of the reward you get from them. So basically, each planet unlock is going to give you, or going to each planet where certain things can be made or unlocked, is just going to give you like certain things sooner. So it may not like change the entire in course of your playthrough, but it will impact like what you get when. So basically the goal was to make the overall expansion experience as good as possible. So they rebalanced the tech tree first off. So that means that with Space Age enabled, some items that are available in vanilla are unlocked later on some planets. So things like artillery, cliff explosives, Spidertron, best tier of modules, and some personal equipment. So like say you want modules first, you need to unlock and go to that planet first, and then kind of like, sacrifice getting artillery or the Spidertron or something until later on. Or if you want the Spidertron first, vice versa. Which is, I think that's really interesting. It actually gives you a meaningful reason to make a choice of where to go. And then, so yeah, they basically just say that it was a meaningful choice. And then that, like I said earlier, that does imply that technically you could just take your vanilla base, activate the expansion, and continue playing. But there are things, like some things that are still changed overall in the gameplay even before you launch a rocket. So, experiencing it with the expansion to begin with is going to be better just overall, because there are just non after rocket changes as this goes into. So they declared that the content will be technically a mod, as I mentioned before, which means a lot of improvements will be there for all players regardless of if they use the expansion or not. So just a few examples of that are like better train control, which is fantastic. And honestly, train control now is in a pretty good spot. So having even more is just like icing on the cake. Like with train stop limits and stuff, it's already pretty decent compared to what we had like years ago. So having even more on top of that is just awesome news. Better blueprint building, which I am so happy for, guys. Like blueprints are one of my biggest complaints now in the game in terms of being able to edit them, because it's super limited what you can edit and stuff. In terms of like, you can't really add stuff into it without building it in the world and re-blueprinting it over and over. So having this is really great. Better flying robot behavior, which is awesome. I don't know if this means performance, improvements, maybe possibly some other stuff, and many more, of course. There's going to be other stuff too. So this is just awesome news, and it will all be covered in detail in future Friday Facts. So we have some good news and some bad news. The bad news is, guys, that the expansion is still about a year away. So they know what their goal is, they know where they are now, and they can approximate a date of the expansion, and they are basically saying it's about a year out. Which is, I will admit, disappointing, but actually seeing what they're doing now, I can kind of understand. Like, this is just pretty huge. A year is a long time to wait, but it will go by faster than the last year or two has, because the embargo on Friday Facts is over. So we will be getting Friday Facts on the expansion every single Friday up until release. So that is something like approximately 50 to 52-ish Friday Facts, just because, it may not be a year to this date, or it may, but Friday Facts every single week. So this means I will be making Friday Facts discussion videos every single week. I am so pumped to do that. I've been just longing to do that for so long, and it's just awesome. Like I can't wait till next Friday because I want to know more and more and more about this expansion. It's just awesome news. So they kind of discuss the current state of things in terms of where they are. So in this previous Friday Facts, they discussed a 7-step plan. Just I'm gonna very quickly just look at this so you can get an idea. So they had this 7-step plan where they kind of just go over, and this was written back in February of 2022 of last year, of kind of like what each step includes and all that. And they say here that they finished step 5. So first pass of tweaking, they've done this, and they started into step 6. So, I mean, in the whole progression of the thing, they're pretty far along, but like this obviously requires quite a bit because, you know, every time something's tested and there's a problem, they have to go back and fix it, etc., etc. So, they say, they started things from step 6 already. It's actually been playable from start to finish for more than a year, which is actually really interesting to me. I didn't think it would have, like, I didn't think it was really playable. I mean, I'm guessing. I didn't really know anything, but I'm just guessing. Like, my guess was that it wasn't really playable up until, like, a few months ago. But this is actually pretty interesting to find out. So they've already made several improvements and iterations and stuff based on the playthroughs behind us. So they're doing 3 types of testing. Playing the game on our own and contemplating how it feels. Doing office LAN parties, which is definitely great to test the multiplayer. That's very important. And individual testers, so they had a few outside testers who played from start to finish and gave us detailed feedback. I'm guessing this was probably people like mod devs or people like that who just, you know, can just like kind of push the game, you know, mess with different parts of the game that like a normal player wouldn't mess with and stuff. Maybe at some point they'll have like mega basers test it and stuff, which would be awesome, you know, kind of like see what the limits are, what breaks at that point. So the feedback led them to a few different things. So 2 of the planets were super repetitive and too similar to Novice, so they basically had to go back and redo all of that, which, I mean, I can imagine that's quite a bit of work. The game was too slow and grindy, so they're speeding things up, but not dumbing it down. The goal was to be able to finish a non-speed run in less than 80 hours for an experienced player, which seems reasonable. I mean, again, you know, the vanilla game, I think, generally for just like a non-speed run person is probably 30 to 40 hours. Like a really experienced player without rushing can probably do it in like 15 or 20, but 80 hours is still like, that's a decent amount of content because, you know, you can obviously get way more than that, you know, depending how you play. They're trying to keep the mechanics and just cut down on recipe counts and costs, which, you know, makes sense. I think having just the base mechanics in there is really good still. Factorio mechanics are pretty good. And they improve many UIs related to the new and sometimes old parts of the game many times. Better UIs, also good. I think where the UIs are now isn't bad by any means, but having improvements is never a bad thing. It was obviously really annoying for them to redo so much, but the feedback they got from it from their testers and themselves and stuff was really good and made it worth it. So it's pretty stable, and they don't expect any further brutal changes to come. They have a pretty stable list of tasks to be finished both for programmers and artists, which makes us confident we can release a polished product in about a year. So yeah, there's obviously still a lot to do. It's going to take them a year, but at least they have like a pretty definitive list of what those things are and stuff like that. And it's not going to hopefully require like a complete redo of something halfway through. I feel like they did do something like that. I don't know if it was for 1.0 or something previous to that. But I remember at some point in the past when they were going to do a release and then they like decided they had to completely redo something and it like added like 6 months to the thing. So it sounds like that's probably, maybe that already happened with the redoing of the planets, but I don't think that's really going to be an issue now. So the good news, as I mentioned before, is the embargo on Factorio Friday Facts is over, guys. So every week there will be Friday Facts discussing different aspects of the expansion. It will show mostly what we have done or what we are working on. It will also They're also looking forward to the feedback from the community, which has proved useful so many times already. With the quantity of things we have, I'm confident we won't run out of topics until release, which is fantastic. So this is awesome. I love this so much. And then there's a last section here, which a lot of you are probably thinking, and I was also thinking, there's a mod for that. Arendelle made space exploration. This is a mod. This is probably one of the most popular mods ever. 347,000 downloads. It's been around for a long time, years, and I've played it a long time ago, several years ago. It's improved a ton since then. This is a space exploration mod. So what's the difference gonna be? So they kind of Arendelle actually writes this and gives some breakdown, but it is worth noting that Arendelle did actually help on the Factorio Space Age expansion. So they were brought on and worked on a couple of the planets, I believe. So they say worked on game design both on Space Age. I made the first Space Plus Planet prototype build, and I've been involved in most of the gameplay discussions since, and then obviously made space exploration. So that's really cool. I like that they brought on the dev that made the mod, and it maybe helped them generate some ideas and see what already kind of didn't work or did work, etc. So a few of the differences, the target audience. So space exploration is definitely aimed at, I would say, more of a hardcore challenge seeker. It is a very extensive mod. Once you get into space, it becomes, in my opinion, quite complicated, pretty lengthy, and that's just kind of what the mod is. There are other planets and stuff, which makes it even more so. But the Space Age expansion is going to be just kind of like a really nice addition to the base game for players of all, skill levels and stuff. So that's one part. The game length. So again, like I mentioned, space exploration is long form. Like it can be super long. Like couple hundred hours probably if you really want it to be, as you can see here, whereas the Space Age expansion is 60 to 100 hours. Obviously you can draw that out too, but just generally speaking, it's not quite as super long form. And then the complexity as well. So again, I basically just summarized this, but it really ramps up the difficulty towards the end. And then some of the last challenges can't be automated without a set of combinators, which I would fail right there. So it's not expected that all players will be able to complete it. Space Age has a lot of different challenges, but they don't get too extreme, and don't require certain complicated things like combinators. Like maybe they do, but it's extremely simple, lightweight. Basically just players of all levels can enjoy it and understand it. And then the other big thing, and this is something that I've mentioned before and has been discussed elsewhere before and such, is the engine support. So even though the devs kind of intended the Space Age expansion to be played like, I'm doing air quotes, like a mod, it is not actually a mod. Like it is in the game engine, and this is the huge difference. Like space exploration, Arendelle's mod, to their credit, is like crazy good and detailed and complicated and adds so much new stuff for being a mod. But there's still stuff that it can't do because, Arendelle can't just tweak the game engine itself for their mod, but the devs can. So the devs can just add mechanics and new things and stuff that a mod just purely can never add or change. So, like it says here, game mechanics just aren't possible. Some gameplay will be unique and refreshing, even if you're a space exploration veteran. So, that covers that. Excuse me. There will, of course, be similarities. I mean, they both are about space travel and other planets, but I do think that the expansion from the devs is going to have a pretty different feel in gameplay progression than the SpaceX mod. And there are many more differences that will become apparent once they look into individual features in upcoming Friday Facts. So as always, let them know on their forums and on the Reddit discussion page for it, and in my comments, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. I definitely want to read through all of them, just see people's feedback and how are you excited? Are you bummed for a year? I mean, I imagine some people would be. I am, but it's not that huge of a deal. Just share your thoughts down below, and I may be doing another video on this weekend, because on the Reddit discussion thread, our seating, one of the devs and maybe some other devs. I haven't looked too close, but at least our seeding has actually been like answering specific questions and stuff about the expansion in the Reddit discussion thread. So that's like a whole other video. But that's going to do it for now, guys. I am so pumped. I'm so glad to have Friday Facts back. Super excited just based on this little tidbits we've seen. And this is just, look how awesome this looks. We had these like inserter things flying out of here. These are like, these like long arm inserters. These engines honestly just look fantastic. And I love how they kept the Factorio feel. Like so these are off, right? And these look pretty janky. But when they turn on, like, I literally feel like if I was standing on this, I would be seconds away from death. Like, if you look at this looks like it could just explode any second. And I love that. That's like what Factorio is. It's all built from, like, scrap, kind of, like the machines. We have, like, grinders. I mean, there's just so much to go through here. But I am super pumped. I hope you guys are. If you did enjoy and you're excited for the expansion, definitely throw a like on the video. If you want to see content like this covering all future Friday Facts, definitely subscribe, and other videos covering the expansion as well as continued mod spotlight content and stuff, definitely subscribe. And again, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.